I'm going to pick one team because I'm not sitting here saying that you should predict the Chiefs are going to have the best offense in the NFL. I don't know they're going to have the best offense in the NFL. The Chiefs, I will shave my head.
No, we don't want you to shave your
head. I know you don't want me to. Luckily, you won't have to. If the Chiefs don't have a better offense than the Denver Broncos, pick the stakes. Now, listen, I think Philly is too low on this list.
Yeah,
I think Green Bay's too high. I'm very interested about
Cincinnati. I think is too low. Not everybody back.
I have questions about. I don't know. I think Cincinnati's offense last year, part of it, they don't want the offense to be as good as it was last year. You know, part of it was like we're only involved in shootouts. As much as I love Baker, I think Tampa's a touch high there. And I think Green Bay, I'm not as bullish on Green Bay as this list is, but if the Kansas City Chiefs have a worse offense than Denver Broncos, it's just say it out loud.
I know it's strange.
It's not, and I forget who wrote this list because we did it. Judy Batista did the Dark Horse MVP. I forget this one, so I apologize. It's just an outrageous take. And again, I am not making excuses because you don't have to make excuses for a team that lost one game all year and made it to the Super Bowl. But to evaluate last year's Chiefs as if they were not far and away the most injured skill position team in the league is, in my opinion, disingenuous when it's using it to project forward.
Yeah. That's 15th year before when they won the Super Bowl. Last year, Denver was ahead of them in points. They were 10th. And that people are looking at it like Bo Nix was a rookie. Sean Payton, working with this new kid. They're going to be better going forward. I don't think Denver's going to have a better offense, but I didn't feel like they had a better offense last year, and they did finish higher in the rankings. I also feel like, look.
I'm sitting here telling you right now, the Denver Broncos are not going to have a better offense than the Kansas City Chiefs next year. It's not going to happen.
Okay. So they won't score more.
They will not score more points than Kansas City Chiefs next year.
Okay. There you have it. Okay. So if you haven't seen, I already did a very long deep dive in specifically about the Chiefs and, what does it mean in terms of rankings? And that's the thing, because it's like, are we talking about points scored? Talking about yards? Are we talking about just general feel about the offense? And I don't want to repeat that whole thing, so definitely feel free to check it out. But if we are just going based on how they typically do the rankings, where it's points scored for offense, points allowed for defense, the Denver Broncos did indeed score more points, 425 to the Chiefs, 385. So then there you go. I'm not 100% sure how, how this was exactly meant to be in terms of what these predicted rankings are. But what I just want to highlight more than anything, because you can doubt, you could reject the Kansas City Chiefs being only 10th. And being frustrated by that and saying, oh, this is ridiculous, they're downplaying, or, they're misjudging, et cetera, et cetera. But to just, single out the Denver Broncos as this is the most ridiculous thing ever. So what does that tell you about how he feels about the Denver Broncos and Bo Nix? I mean, they put up a lot of points last season. I mean, they were top 10 with a rookie, with not a lot of weapons, with an inconsistent run game. You mean to tell me, just like how we said, oh, well, the Chiefs are going to be better this year because they're not going to be as injured and run game and this. Okay, well, now the Broncos have better weapons. Maybe they weren't necessarily injured last year, but now they have upgraded weapons. They have an upgraded run game. They have now a quarterback who's no longer going to be a rookie. So he should also, in theory, be better. So you mean to tell me that he's not going to, that they're not going to, I mean, like, when you really actually look at this, a rookie-led offense having this level of production, top 10, scoring more points, and again, I don't care about injuries at this point, more than the Chargers, more than the Cardinals, more than the 49ers. We'll leave out the Falcons because, their quarterback situation was weird, but more than the Chiefs. And yeah, the Steelers had a weird quarterback situation too, but for the most part, they had Russell Wilson there. And again, once you start to get a little bit lower, the Colts, it's like, who was your quarterback? But Geno Smith did better than that. Houston Texans, CJ Stroud. And again, I know dealing with some injuries and whatnot. But at the same time, it's like, how do we decide when we want to talk about that one team has some injuries and another team just doesn't have, like, elite weapons? Like, doesn't matter. What matters more? That you have a healthy wide receiver who is nowhere near as great as, say, Justin Jefferson, or having Justin Jefferson but he's injured or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like it is an interesting situation because, like, some guys are like, well, Rashee Rice was injured, and another quarterback here is like saying, I don't even have anyone close to a Rashee Rice. Yeah, my wide receivers are healthy, but, like, they're not as good as Rashee Rice or as good as Justin Jefferson, or, so it's like, yeah, okay, I have a really good wide receiver, a decent wide receiver, but I have no run game and my O-line is awful. Or I have a terrible defense, and so I have to just throw the ball. I have to put up point after point after point after point. I can't rely on field goals whatsoever. I have to score touchdowns. It's got to be 6. It's got to be 7, sometimes 8. Because my kickers also missing extra points too, man. So it's like it's not 1 + 1 = 2 in this moment. And to single out the Broncos as this just, like, inferior team because of thoughts and feelings, I mean, why? They literally held their own. Completely. I mean, from weeks 9 onward, Bo Nix, top 7 in passing yards. Just literally like 30 yards less than Patrick Mahomes. 2,227 to 2,245. 7.3 yards per attempt. I mean, why are we trying to pretend like that's just nothing? 69% completion percentage. And again, I skipped the first handful of weeks because he was a rookie. He was getting into rhythm. And honestly, I just kind of picked week 9 onward. I'm sure he might even be higher in the ranks if I do week 6 onward. But I just, trying to do this fast. I mean, touchdowns. Top 4. And it's not like we're doing like some weird sample size where it's just like, well, what about week 3 and week 9? It's like week 9, week 9 onward. Like, I'm not even sure if that's even included. Because again, I don't even remember when the Broncos had their bye. That might even include a bye in this situation. But really good, obviously. Obviously. And that was not on a stacked team. That was not with flushed with weapons. Like, Nick Wright can cry about an injured running back. And it's like, okay, here are the Broncos. They rushed for 1,908 yards. 430 of that came from Bo Nix. Okay? So around 1,500 yards. Kansas City Chiefs had 1,790. 300 of that came from Patrick Mahomes. It's pretty much a wash. So you can't say, well, they had no run game. They had no run game. It's like, well, then if you say that, well, then neither did the Broncos. So yeah, it's just, we can keep trying to convince ourselves that the Broncos aren't that good of a team, or that it's just insulting that they're going to be a successful team, that they're going to have success, that Bo Nix is going to have success, just because we just don't like, he's like, just say it out loud. The Denver Broncos. You mean one of the most iconic franchises in the NFL? I mean, you mean Denver, one of the most beautiful cities in the country? One of the most beautiful states in the country? Like, what? I mean, like, Denver, like, is football. Like, I'm not from Denver, man. I mean, I've been there a handful of times, but it's just like, it's not like I'm born and raised in Denver or something, or like I grew up going to Denver all the time. But it's just like it's the Denver Broncos. In fact, it's harder to imagine the Denver Broncos not being a great team, because my entire football life, the Denver Broncos have been an iconic franchise. For a teeny tiny little window, the Kansas City Chiefs have even been remotely relevant. And that's only because of Andy and Patrick Mahomes. Whereas the Denver Broncos have been relevant multiple iterations. Just saying. So it's like, and someone told me this, where they said, you know, Nick hates the Broncos so much because his whole life growing up, like, they just kind of like owned the Chiefs and whatnot. And that's one of those things that, like, it'll be like harder for me to grasp, or to not grasp, because obviously I can grasp it. It would be harder for me to connect those dots at the time, you know, because it's just like I don't think that way. Like, that's not the way how my mind works. Like, for instance, like when I was real young, like one of the first Super Bowls that I really like have, like, it's not like a real memory, but it's like a very loose, faded memory, was like the Broncos and the Packers Super Bowl. And I wanted the Packers to win, I'm sure. And again, for no other reason than just like they have their green and I like the color green, you know? And it's just like, now I'm going to just like grow up like hating the Broncos because the team that I wanted to win, probably Brett Favre as well. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just weird. It's not how my mind works at all. For much of my football life, the Commanders were trash. They've gone by multiple names. That means I'm like only going to be like, can you imagine the Washington Commanders, a top team in the NFL? And it's like, well, yeah, they got Jaden Daniels and Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury. And now they got Debo and Zach Ertz, and they boosted their O-line. Like, yeah, of course I can see it. Like, they fundamentally changed their franchise. Like, that makes sense. I don't know what to tell you. So it's just the Detroit Lions, probably the best example out of any of these. Could you imagine the Detroit Lions being even remotely a competent team? And it's like, well, yeah, their team and their culture has been completely transformed. I mean, what was it? Their first playoff win in like 30 years, or when they finally won a couple of years ago? I think that's what it was. You had people crying. There was people that have like literally not been born yet the last time. The Cowboys haven't even been to an NFC Championship game in 30 years. Like, things change. Right now, over the last, 10 years especially, but even if we stretch it out a little bit to like, especially depending on the teams like the Eagles and the Ravens, last like 25 years or so, it's like, yeah, these teams have been consistently great. They're very well run. But especially within the last 10 years or so, the Bills, the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Eagles, right? These are these perennial teams, and the 49ers, that are constantly in the conference championship games, Super Bowls, winning multiple Super Bowls, especially for the Eagles and the Chiefs. It's like, do I think it's going to definitely be that way 20 years from now? Like, no. I got no idea. Maybe. So it's just like, when you say something like that, when you're just like, just think about it. The Broncos, if that's your analysis, well, then you don't actually have an argument. You really don't. Because you could have said that about the Washington Commanders last season. The Commanders? And it's like, yes. Jaden Daniels is awesome. That's what happens. I don't know what to tell you. So yes, the Broncos. I'm sorry. The Broncos finally have competence and high quality coaching and quarterback play. And they have a coach who also knows how to run and build teams and work with owners, GMs, etc. And knows how to work with quarterbacks, with receivers, O-lines, running games. Like, that's why he's a great coach. That's why he's a great coach. It's why he's consistently been great for years. It's why with Bo Nix he was able to get the Broncos back into the playoffs for the first time, I think, in 10 years. and why on a scripted opening drive, Bo Nix threw a strike and threw a touchdown, and it was awesome. Didn't go exactly to plan for the rest of the game, but that playoff game in the first half, like, it was in the balance for a moment. It legitimately was. I'm not going to pretend like that they were going to win that game and then they were going to go on and win the Super Bowl or anything like that, but it was like, that's what happens. That's what happens when you have competence, that you can actually throw a couple punches. Now, you need some maturity, you need some growth, you need some experience, you need some other weapons to be able to now be more resilient, do more. That takes time. I could understand if this list came out and said the predictions to win the Super Bowl, that you're going to pick the Broncos over the Chiefs. I'm like, yeah, I can understand that, because you're like, well, Bo Nix has to prove that he could play big in like a conference championship game, or that he can lead the drive. You know, that I can understand. And you're like, well, come on, we've seen the Chiefs do it. The Chiefs have been to multiple Super Bowls. Like, I can understand that. But to pretend like that it's crazy that the Broncos will even be like competitive or really, really good when they've already shown that they were already a playoff team. Like, that's the thing. It's not like they had Bo Nix and Sean Payton and they just showed some fight in them, but they only won like 6 games last year. And now people are, well, this is the year Bo Nix is gonna take a huge jump forward. Again, I could understand it. But the Broncos were really good last year. Again, were they great? Were they elite? Were they special? No, they were not. Did they show some awesome moments? Did they play the Chiefs in one of the hardest games all year and had that game won? Yeah, they did. They did. They held their own. They held their own with a rookie quarterback who definitely had a rocky, slow start. But that's in the past. That's in the past. The Broncos failing, the Broncos being just a kind of a circus of I mean, like, my goodness, how many quarterbacks have they had over the years? I mean, like, I can't even remember the names. When I had to go back and look at them, like, who the heck was the quarterback for Fangio? Like, how long did Fangio even like coach for? Like, who was this before that and after? I'm like, it was like, oh my God, it does. It's actually like makes your head spin. When some of these teams have like a collection of coaches and quarterbacks, you're like, it's actually hard to like look at with your eyes. You're just like, oh my God, man. And then when you look at another team and you're like, oh, okay, it's been the same coach, the same quarterback for the last like 8 years. Like, do you know how much easier it is to run a team and build a team when you have that stability? It's night and day. It's night and day. It's why even a team like the Ravens or the Bills are so hesitant to even move on from their coach, even if they think maybe their coach isn't good enough, because the stability is still worth its weight in gold. Because you potentially just get on this just circus. This is why even a team like the Dallas Cowboys are like, we'll keep Dak Prescott. Because, yeah, he hasn't shown to necessarily elevate in the playoffs, but like, I don't know, man. We could be a team like the Commanders or what the Broncos were and what the Commanders were before as well, where it's just like, you know, just round and round we go. Let's keep trying to find a quarterback. And so sometimes you're just like, all right. And like, that's who the Broncos had been. And if you think you're just going to keep living in that universe, you're in for a rude awakening. The Chargers no longer have that. The Broncos no longer have that. The Raiders are in the process of leaving that behind. Times are a-changing. Get used to it. And visit Denver. It's really nice. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Denver Broncos? How ridiculous it is. How dare people predict that the Broncos are actually going to be a good team next season? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. Please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.